Today is Thursday. I had to think about it. I was literally about to say today is Friday. Today is Thursday, October the 29th. I am your host, Casey Phoenix, and this is my daily thought. Okay, where to start? Had to wipe off my mouth here. You know how you feel your mouth feels, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't want to say sticky. What's that word? Just, I guess, wet, for lack of a better word. But I feel like there's another word in the English language for it. But when your mouth feels wet or really moist or around your mouth, and you're like, okay, no, this isn't working. So, yeah, today's been good. Today's been good. I hope you're having a good day too. I have my tea, my hibiscus tea, which I'm addicted to. By the way, I hope somebody who has been listening to the podcast has tried it by now to see how it is. I told you it's kind of tart. Not really tart, but it's tart enough. Okay. So I got a text from my mother today because she received more flowers. And that was the thing, which I'm going to explain to her what had happened, which I don't think I explained to you guys what was going on. Because I told you I bought her a bunch of gag gifts and stuff, and then I bought her the flowers. But the reason she ended up with two things of flowers was because the flowers I originally wanted, they couldn't give me a date, an exact date on when the flowers would be delivered. They were just saying, oh, it'll be between October the 29th and November the 2nd or November the 3rd or something like that. And I couldn't get an exact date. And I'm like, well, that's not going to work because I don't want it to come after her birthday. So I had bought her the 24 roses in addition to the original purple orchids that I had bought her. The purple orchids were the ones that I wanted her to have because my parents have hardwood floors in their home, and purple and hardwood floors go very good together. So I was like, that'll look perfect in the house. I love orchids. They're purple. Everything's going to be right. Da 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 da. So I ordered that, but of course I told you with the date thing, so I just ordered her 24 roses as sort of a backup. And of course, the roses came before the orchids did. The orchids came today. She texted me and she's like, thank you for my flowers. These are so pretty and da 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 da. So now she's got all of her stuff. So she got 24 roses. She got 20 stems of purple orchids. And both included the vase or vase, however you want to say it. And then also she got the gag gifts, which were the two pairs of socks, both being different brands, because I didn't know, like I mentioned, what the quality would be since they were gag gifts. And on the bottom of them, because she drinks a lot of wine, as I mentioned before, they said, if you can read this, bring me some wine. And then her other gag gifts, two mugs. One mug had said, no matter what life throws at you, at least you don't have ugly children. It's a joke, somewhat. And the other gag gift was, Mom, thanks for putting up with my shit. Oh, yeah, sorry I cussed so much or something like that. Love, your favorite. And she loved all of her gifts. She loved her gag gifts and she loved her flowers and everything. So it all worked out well. And I've been yawning a lot today, which I thought I slept pretty good last night. But my body is telling me, okay, maybe you need to get a little bit extra time in and do that. So I'm going to listen to my body. And that's what you should do too. Listen to your body. Pay attention. Don't miss the signs, like I said. In one of my daily thoughts, don't miss the signs. But I've been yawning today. I finally got most of my clothes washed, so I'm happy about that. And I got myself a little gift. and I was on the fence and I thought about it because you guys who already, the regular listeners of the show, of the podcast, they already know that I bought a laptop. But the laptop was more for business reasons. So it was like a half gift. It wasn't a full gift for me. And that's why I was on the fence, because I'm like, okay, it's all right to splurge every now and then, but don't do it just because. Regardless of how much money you make or how much money you have in your bank account or don't have in your bank account or whatever, don't splurge just because. Don't try to find every little reason to splurge. And this is just my opinion and my thoughts. You're grown, you're an individual, you have free will, you can do what you want to do. I'm just telling you what I personally believe and what I do. So I was thinking about the laptop that I had bought, and I was like, well, it's kind of a half gift. And I'm already buying the new Xbox that's coming out in a few weeks, which hopefully there will be one available. But I was just like, I want to get something for me. And I had my eyes on this pair of shoes for over a year. And I just hadn't, one reason is I don't go out a lot, even though I plan to start going out more. And the other reason was, you know how certain things are on your list, but it's not at the top of it being a necessity or a priority or anything like that. But it's in the back of your mind. It's on your list. And you're like, I want to do this. And buying those shoes was one of those things. And it's been on my mind from time to time, but it hasn't really been at the top of the list. So I was like, I want to do something nice for myself. Because I mentioned yesterday how I really feel like I need that me time because I've been working so much. And that came into play with my thought process. And I was just like, I really want to do something for myself. And then the shoes crossed my mind. And I'm like, okay, if the shoes are still on sale, because I can be cheap, or as some people say, frugal. If the shoes are still on sale, I'll go ahead and buy them. So I went to the Neiman Marcus website with my fingers crossed, and I'm like, please let these shoes still be on sale. Please let these shoes still be on sale, because a year has passed since I've looked at these shoes, and they were on sale then. And I was like, okay, please let the shoes be on sale. And I'm looking throughout the website, trying not to get sidetracked, because usually when I go on the website, I usually make a beeline for the Robert Graham stuff, because I love Robert Graham stuff. And I don't have all designer stuff, so don't think that. Whoever's listening to the podcast, do not think that I have all designer stuff. I don't believe in spending money like that. I don't do that. I have some things, it's like what I like, what I don't. And you can get really, really good quality stuff for really good prices without buying the designer labels. Because usually, for those who don't know, with a lot of designer labels, it's usually made by the same manufacturer anyway, where the same manufacturer who might make, I'm just throwing out a name, that might make Gap is made in the same factory that might make Robert Graham or whatever. And some people don't know that. Just like with sunglasses, don't waste your money on sunglasses, because over 70% of the sunglasses are made by most of the same manufacturers. So if you're buying the Chanel sunglasses or whatever, they're usually made by another, they're made by the same manufacturer under another brand that's like half the price or a quarter of the price. So don't waste your money on buying sunglasses just for the name when it's made by the same manufacturer for a quarter of the price or half the price, just a different name. Just throwing that out there. You can do what you want to do, but I'm just throwing it out there. But anyways, back to the story. So with the website, while I was there, I didn't go to the Robert Graham section. I went to the shoes section, and then I found the shoes, and they were still on sale. So I ordered the shoes. Because the regular price, I think, hold on. As a matter of fact, I mean, I'm right by my laptop. So let me take a quick glance right quick. And go to, for those who are listening to the podcast, you can probably hear me tapping, which this is how I usually type anyway, because I have heavy hands when I type. So yeah, I'm looking, here we go. So the regular price is $700 for the shoes. And I got them for $340 with tax and all that shit. It was like $370. And it was the Saint Laurent. And as soon as I get the shoes, I'll show them on, for those who watch the videos, I'll show it on the podcast, on the show. If you don't watch the videos, which, like I said before, more people listen to my show than watch my show, which is fine. It's no big deal. I love you all. The shoes are very plain. And that's the other thing too. I don't buy obvious stuff. I have a pair of designer shoes. It's called Lanvin. It's Lanvin, and it's pronounced Lanvin. The N is silent in French when doing like Saint Laurent. So with those shoes, Lanvin, I got those on sale as well. Those are $700 shoes, but I got them for $200. I told you I don't like paying full price for stuff. So yeah, but I got the Saint Laurent, and I was like, you know what? That's my little thing for me, and that's gonna be my thing. Even though I'm still buying the Xbox, and I'll get the PS5 later. I probably won't get the PS5 until the beginning of next year, even though I could buy it along with the Xbox. But I'm not in that energy right now because my PS4 is still doing its thing. The only reason, let me tell you something, which I think I mentioned this before on one of my Keeping It Real with KC episodes. The only reason that I'm buying the Xbox, the new one that's coming out, is because it's backwards compatible all the way to the original Xbox. And I have Marvel vs. Capcom 2, which is the best fighting game ever. There will never be a better fighting game than Marvel vs. Capcom 2. And I have the disc of that. And to my understanding, you can play the disc in the new Xbox Series X. That's the only reason I'm buying the Xbox. Quiet as it's kept, I don't rock with Xbox like that. I stopped rocking with Xbox after the 360. And then I became pretty much PlayStation loyal. But because the Xbox Series X is supposed to be backwards compatible with everything going back to the original Xbox, and I have original Xbox games, and one of those games is Marvel vs. Capcom 2, which is my favorite fighting game and the best fighting game. That's the only reason I'm buying it. If they didn't have that feature, I'd be buying the PS5 instead. But they have that feature, so I'm going to buy the Xbox Series X, which they're already sold out currently, but the pre-orders, but hopefully week after next, because I think they go on sale November the 10th or something like that. So I'll go ahead and do that. But anyways, I'm getting, not to go off too far, because you guys know, I talk a little bit before I go into my daily thought and stuff. But let me go ahead and get into my daily thought because I got other things going on here. All right. This stuck with me because I had heard it. And you know me, my tarot card readings, I love my tarot card readings. And one thing that a tarot card reader said, they said, take a risk on you. You're always supporting other people. And you have all these ideas. Take a risk on you. And that stuck with me so much. I was like, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and talk about that. So I'm going to talk about that for a few minutes. there comes a time when you have to step up, and it's starting to get hot in here because I'm boiling this chicken. My spirit told me I should have turned on the air conditioner, but I'm just gonna have to thug it on out. Okay, there comes a time when you have to step up. And one thing that I heard before is that when you have ideas, they're given to you for a reason. They're brought to you for a reason. Everybody is their own individual. Now, do people have some of the same ideas sometimes and something comes out and you're like, oh, I thought about that? Yes, obviously that happens. Happens to me a lot. But the ideas that come to people, they come to them for a reason. They come to them because the universe wants you to bring stuff into existence. And the universe is probably hedging its bets, I guess you could say, when some people have some of the same ideas where the universe will plant it in one person's head and plant the same idea in another person's head and another person's head, and it's hedging its bets and saying, okay, somebody's going to execute. Someone's going to do this idea. What I'm saying to you is don't be the person who talks yourself out of pursuing the idea. Like, oh, it's not the right time. Oh, I don't have the time. Oh, they'll never like it if I do it. Or, oh, whatever excuse your inner voice is telling you. Because your inner voice usually tries to talk you out of things. And I know people watching are like, why are you doing that to your lip? Because there's condensation that happened with this mug. And I touched the water. And when I moved my finger, a drop of water went to the side of my mouth. And that's why I was rubbing like that. But anyways, so don't let your inner voice, because the inner voice is the knee-jerk reaction for the inner voice most of the time is to talk you out of doing something. Or to have you analyze it a little bit more. And I'm not saying just jump head first into everything without doing any type of research or something like that. What I am saying is don't become a victim of what's known as analysis paralysis, where you're constantly analyzing something and you're so stuck in analyzing it, you're not able to make a move or do any action or execute. And that happens. And while you're stuck analyzing what's going on, the other person who received the idea from the universe, they're already executing. They're already filing their articles of incorporation or doing whatever, or out in the street selling whatever out the trunk of their car, or doing this or doing that. And then things happen, or somebody starting something up, a business up in their garage, and then it grows and becomes whatever. Or they're recording stuff on YouTube and getting their face and their voice out there, starting a podcast, or doing this or doing that is what I'm talking about. And one person, the same person who was talking about the ideas were brought to you for a reason. His name is Les Brown, if you ever want to look him up. He's a motivational speaker. He said the place, I need to phrase it correctly. This isn't going to be word for word. He pretty much said the place with the most treasure in the world is the graveyard. And the reason that the graveyard has the most treasure in the world is because the people who are buried there, ideas were given to them and they didn't pursue it. They didn't take the risk. So the ideas that were given to them that could have possibly changed the world, but they weren't willing to take a risk on themselves, those ideas died with them and went to the grave with them, is what he was saying. They weren't willing to take a risk on themselves for whatever reason. And when I heard this tarot card reader say, take a risk on you, because I don't know if you've noticed in your life where someone brings you something And by something, I mean a situation. Some people might call it a problem or whatever. And you give them information that helps them resolve. You give them a solution to whatever they bring, whether they may ask you for a solution or not. You just may, based off of the information that you're gathering from the conversation, you're like, well, have you ever thought about doing this? And then they're like, oh, well, that's a good idea. I'm going to go ahead and do that. And you're able to resolve people's problems or issues. And you are doing it for everyone else, but you're not doing it for yourself. You're telling people, if someone comes to you and they're like, oh, I want to do this, and you're being the cheerleader, rah, 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 go for it. Take a chance. Every time I think about that, I think about Coming to America. For those who haven't seen Coming to America, there, spoiler alert, there's this scene on the subway where she's trying to figure out whether she wants to stay with Akeem or not. And the lady on the subway is like, go ahead, honey, take a chance. So every time I think about that, that's what I hear. So that's what I'm talking about. Where you're rah, 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 and you're like, go ahead, take a chance for everyone but you. Why is that? I'll just take a sip of my tea. Why is that? Why is it that you are a cheerleader for everybody on planet Earth but yourself? Why is it that you are willing to push people to take a risk on themselves, but you're never willing to take a risk on you? Could it be fear? Could it be something else? Usually it's fear. Because when people do things, the biggest thing that people are usually afraid of, well, there's two things. One thing is people are afraid of failing. The other thing is they're afraid of what people will say. This all goes back to what I said before. Ego, self-love, and self-esteem. Loving yourself and self-esteem. If you can master those things, that the two things I just mentioned, failing and worrying about what people say, that won't even be in the equation. So make sure, I did a daily thought on that. Check that out. I believe it was titled Self-Esteem, Loving Yourself, and Ego. Check that out if you haven't listened to it. But you're the answer. You're the one the idea was given to. Now, is this a daily thought saying that you should make sure you're always in the limelight? No. This is where the caveat comes in. You don't always have to be in the limelight. As some people say, the power is behind the throne. However, there is a time where you need to step into the limelight and wear your crown, even if it's only temporarily, to let people know, A, you can wear it and wear it well, and B, it's your crown, because the idea was given to you. It was presented to you. So for that reason alone, you've already been, one could say, anointed, or one could say, I guess, ordained, or what have you. To break it down in even simpler terms, the universe has already touched you with the idea. That's the confirmation right there. Now, idea a good idea? No, not necessarily. And not every idea is a bad idea. But this is the thing. Regardless of whether an idea is good or bad, you won't be able to determine that if you don't take a risk on you. It will just sit on the shelf and go to the grave with you. Or, like I said, the universe does hedge its bets sometimes. Somebody else that also received the idea decided to pick up the crown and wear it and execute and take a risk on themselves. And then we find out that it was a good idea. And let's say that it's a bad idea. Let's say it just doesn't work out. You tried so many different ways. And it was determined after a bunch of research and everything else that no, that wasn't it. But how do you know that the journey of attempting to execute that idea and bring it to life didn't allow you to stop at other places while on the way to executing that idea? That you were to pick up another idea that was actually the winning idea, or gave you additional resources in your toolbox for the next idea that the universe gives to you that you can use later for that idea, and then that can be the winning idea. But you wouldn't know this if you don't take a risk on yourself. You wouldn't start the journey if you aren't willing to take a risk on you. You won't get anything done. You will stay still while life goes on, as it always does, and as I always say. And what was with you, never done, never executed, risk never taken, will go to the grave with you, never being birthed into the world. You don't want that to happen. So before you talk yourself out of something, before you let your inner voice say, no, wait on that, no, analyze that more, oh, you don't have the time, or oh, whatever excuse your inner voice wants to give you when an idea comes to you, don't listen. Take a risk on you. And then let the chips fall where they may. And if you have self-esteem, you know how to love yourself, and you have ego, regardless of where the chips fall, you will still be able to pick yourself up and try again. But you can't do any of this. You can't find out any of these things unless you are willing to take a risk on you. Stop being a cheerleader for everyone but yourself. Learn to be a cheerleader for you. When your inner voice comes on in your head and says one thing about an idea that you may have, you need to be your own cheerleader and cheer yourself on. And tell your inner voice that is blocking you, that is paralyzing you, to say, you need to have a seat. I'm going to take a risk on me. It's my turn. I'm going to lead on this one. Everyone else needs to stand back. This is now my show. And that's all I have for my daily thought. This tea is so... I am addicted to this tea. But yeah, KIRWKC.com, main podcasting platform, KIRWKC for Twitter, for Instagram. If you are on Facebook, facebook.com/KIRWKC. If you're watching this on YouTube or Daily Motion, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, followed by the notification bell for YouTube. That will let you know when I upload new videos. But as I said before, it seems like everyone just listens to the podcast, and that's fine. I still love you. So it's all good. This weekend, by the way, this weekend it will be a movie recommendation. Weekend, I'm going to do one episode. I'll probably recommend one movie unless I'm feeling myself, but more than likely it's going to be one movie I'm going to recommend. I have no idea what movie it will be. I'm tempted to watch this certain movie that I've been trying to. You know how, like I said, my shoes were on the list for the past year? There has been a movie that I have owned for a year now. There's a lot of movies I've owned for a year or 2 years or 3 years that I haven't even watched yet. But there's been this movie that I've owned for over a year. And it's been on my list. And I've heard that it's an amazing movie. And I still haven't watched it yet. My goal would be to attempt to watch this movie this weekend. Or tomorrow. So I might. If I can watch that, my movie review will be on that movie. If not, it'll be on one I've already seen, which I've seen thousands upon thousands upon thousands of movies. So hopefully I can watch that movie. Anyways, until next time, thank you for supporting the show. Love you guys. Be blessed.